Hello and welcome to another live show, Thursday Night Live. Yeah, we've got to talk about tonight. We'll get into some breaking news in a little bit later, very soon actually. But join us on the show tonight. We've got Terry, the Mad Mistake. Terry, how are you doing and how's your week been so far?
Week's been okay, not too bad. I've got a nice early start tomorrow morning, so want to get out of the way. Weekend's all ready to go for the match on Saturday. Happy days, looking forward to it.
Nice one. Also join us tonight on the show, we've got Jacob Kirkbride. Jacob, how are you doing, mate? How's your week been?
Yeah, not too bad, Wayne. Obviously just keeping my eye on the transfer speculation, with it being the penultimate week in the window. Sadly, one particular player that we all love and adore is on the verge of leaving, but hopefully we'll have satisfactory replacements in the door by tomorrow evening.
Fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed. And last but not least, we've got Jack Shields. Jack, how are you doing, mate? How's your week been going so far?
Yeah, not too bad. Been a short week for me, Wayne. I'm only in 2 days this week. I was at the cricket yesterday, Chester Street. Yeah, England versus New Zealand. Saw England get a massive win. And yeah, as always, Thursday, 7 o'clock means Sunderland time, so plenty to discuss. Happy
days. Cheers, Jack. So, don't forget you can join us in the live chat tonight. Get your comments in there. There'll be loads to talk about. Also, you can say me and Jack's both got our top on there. So don't forget, we are sponsored by Toffs this season. So if you head across to that website and put the code in SAFEN15, you get a 15% discount on all the retro shirts that they sell on the online shop. But very quickly in the chat, Les Palmer's Mackham says, "Evening lads, keep the faith. Mick Grizz, good evening, one and all. Conrad, that evening, I hope you'll have time to comment tomorrow's transfer day turmoil. AJ Embleton is the news about Ross Stewart, which we'll speak about soon. Alan Thompson, evening lads. Mickey Mack, evening everyone. Thean says evening. Carl McKee, we're finished if we don't get 2 strikers tomorrow. Mickey Stewart, if we sell Stewart, we'll go down. We are a selling club. And Thean says, never mind Russian and a replacement for Stewart. We need another fullback, centre midfield and winger. The club have got to get it right tomorrow." Right, we'll start off with the transfer business. So in the last half an hour, Keith Downey's been reporting that we've accepted a £8 million bid plus £2 million bid from Southampton for Ross Stewart. So the saga of the will he, won't he go, looks like it's going to be drawn to a conclusion tomorrow. Not great timing. But Terry, what's your thoughts on the breaking news that Ross Stewart looks like he's off to Southampton?
Yeah, he's definitely off to Southampton. My source told me about 20 minutes before that, and I was just about to make a video on it, and then Keith Downey came out with that. So I think he's definitely gone. End of the day, he's been injured for a long time, been injured twice, hasn't he, over the last season or so. And if you get 8 million plus 2 million add-ons, 10 million for an injured player in his last year of his contract, is that a good deal? It's only a good deal if you can bring somebody in to replace him, because we need a striker and we reinvest all of the money. I mean, in Tony Mowbray's comments in his interview, he said he'd be very disappointed if we didn't replace Ross Stewart and he was sold, if we didn't reinvest all the money in players. So watch this space. Looks like the money's going to be reinvested. I wish Ross Stewart all the best. I liked him at the club. I thought he was a great player, a good player. I thought he was great in defence, heading the balls away, marching on the line. I thought he was good up top. We missed him big time since he's been out. But at the end of the day, it is disappointing. It's his last probably big contract. Southampton, £150 million they're getting in over the summer. They got their parachute payments. They can give him a massive wad of money where we can't at this moment in time. So end of the day, I wish him all the best. A lot of players would do this here. No hard feelings. Just hope we can get players in to replace him.
That's the thing, Jack. I mean, there was reports that came out yesterday that apparently Wade matched his wage demands, but he still didn't want to stay. He wanted to be off. So, if that's the case, it was kind of a no-brainer to sell him, wasn't it? If he didn't want to stay last year of his contract, we had to take the money with.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we were always in a difficult position. As soon as a player enters the last year of the contract, it's liable that they're going to be either sold or run the contract down. And it's sort of a rerun of the Josh Madgis situation a few years ago, wasn't it? He got into the last 6 months of his contract and we didn't want to sell him, but we thought, well, $3.5 million, I think it was at the time, is a good fee. We've done the same again. I don't think we'll probably miss him as much as a lot of us think because how well we've adapted when he's been injured. Do you know what I mean? He hasn't played a lot of football in the last sort of 6 months, 9 months. No doubt in Ross Stewart's talent. No doubt in what he brings to our team. We're a completely different team with Ross Stewart on the pitch. Terry's mentioned defensively. He's really 3 strikers in one. He's your pressing striker, he's your hold-up man, and he's your goal scorer. So, but I think the fact he's been injured a while and we've had to learn, or we've been forced to try and adapt the way that we play. I think and you can look at it this way as well. We signed him for what was it, 200,000 or 300,000, 400,000. He's in the last year of his contract, and we're going to get £10 million for him. So it's not a bad deal in terms of the finances. But the issue we've got is it's very late in the window, and who are we going to get as a replacement? Might be something for us to discuss, but we definitely need somebody. I think I'm looking at it thinking, I hope they don't try and say that the Ukrainian lad is a replacement for him, because really the Ukrainian lad should be signing alongside the Ross Stewart replacement. And we've got a little bit of money now. People have said, "Oh, we haven't got money," and they've got no money to spend. Well, we're going to have a little bit now, so there's definitely we definitely need somebody. We'll probably need 2 strikers in, one and Rusin.
Great stuff, Jack. Cheers. So there's loads of people commenting on that breaking news. So we've got Adam Robinson. We obviously didn't do enough to keep Stewart. Well, obviously we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Did we offer him? Said the reports where we offered him his wage demands, but it still wasn't enough. But we'll never know. It's a good bit of business for selling Stewart. Said Mick Griffiths. Stewart should have been tied down to a new deal as soon as he got promoted. I think the talks were ongoing, weren't they? David Joblin says Patty Roberts is going to Southampton. David Joblin again says Sunderland manager will walk away. Colin Major, Stewart's gone. We just have to move on. One player doesn't make a team. That's very true. David Brown spend the money on Sidney Van Hooijdonk. Keir Morris for me. If we sell him and we don't bring in someone, it's a disaster transfer window in my opinion. So Jacob, based on the reports that have come out about we offered him what he wanted and the timing of it. What's your thoughts on losing our best striker?
Well, we don't know exactly what we offered behind the scenes, whether it was reasonable or what he actually demanded. I wouldn't look into too much on that front, but at the same time, the timing of it is shocking, to be honest. But we have to admit, if he'd been fit and raring to go, he would have been bought earlier on in the window. There's no doubt about that. I think that the fact that could we have potentially seen him, come back from injury and then look to sell him in January. I think, listen, for a club that's only been at the start of their second season in the Championship and another club coming in with a price tag of 10 million for one of our players, I think it's too hard for the club to turn that down, if I'm brutally honest, considering the fact that when Ross Stewart came in, we bought him for, it was around about 500,000, something like that. So decent profit at the end of the day, but we have to show a lot of faith tomorrow in Christian Speakman. Listen, he's bought decent replacements for players before in his tenure. An experienced midfielder like Grant Ledbetter left. He replaced him with Pritchard on a free. Charlie Wyke, who scored the goals in League One, he replaced him with Ross Stewart, and he's done it once. He needs to do it again, but he's got only 24 hours and the pressure's going to be on, but fingers crossed he'll be able to deliver. Listen, Ross Stewart, he's had 2. He's been so unlucky with injuries the past 2. See, Southampton have paid 10 mil, and will it be guaranteed he'll be the same player when he comes back? I think so, but it's not fully. We've seen players recover from Achilles injuries and not being the same when they've returned to the football pitch. So who knows? I wish Ross Stewart all the best, but let's just see what happens in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, well commented, well said. We've got 117 people watching at the moment. We've got 18 likes, so if you don't mind, smash that like button. We'll try and get to 100 before the end of the show. Very quickly back in the chat, Rob, SAFC, had a very good point there. Like what you just said there, Jake, he might not be the same player when he comes back. In his injury, he might not be the same player. So for me, I think it's a great bit of business. I'm sorry to see him go, but like if he'd been fit and scoring goals, it would have been more of a blow. And would have probably getting more money from him than £10 million. But I just think that the club was in a no-win situation. To get £10 million is a great bit of business. But Terry, the notice of it, and it now gives us less, like just over 24 hours to get a new signing in. There's been reports of Tom Cannon being linked, but I think now he's in talks with Norwich. So, realistically, who could we get in and who could we look at as a potential replacement? Do we spend all of the £10 million plus the Lahaji money?
Well, all these rumours out there about this Rooston flying over today and somewhere in Sunderland kicking about. So, I mean, end of the day, is he going to be a replacement for Ross Stewart? Probably not. We probably need somebody else in as well. Now, whether that's we're going to wait till the last day, like obviously we're probably going to wait till the last day now and get a loanee youngster in from the Premier League. Tom Cannon would have been my favourite. For me, I'd splash the board out and spend the £8 million on getting Tom Cannon in personally. I mean, I think he's done it last season with Preston. Looks like a decent acquisition. I think he'd be exactly what we need. Crying out for it, to be fair. But it looks as if Rooston's coming in. Well, like I say, I hope so anyway. But I've heard nothing at all from anywhere saying who else could be coming in. But I would love to see Tom Cannon coming as a surprise, maybe his deadline day acquisition.
That's the worry. And Jack, about Rushin, we've heard. I think he did an interview, didn't he, with Ukrainian media during the week to say that he's actually injured. He's got a pure bone injury, and from what I can gather, he's only 5'10", so clearly he's not a replacement for Ross Stewart. But who would you realistically look at, and who could we potentially get in at this moment in time?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched him. I know it's hard to judge a player on YouTube, but I watched him a little bit on YouTube, and he doesn't look like a Ross Stewart type striker. He looks more like a goal scorer. Do you know what I mean? Someone that's going to be in and around the box, and I don't think his style of play is anywhere like anything like Ross Stewart's. Who would I like to see? I don't know. I mean, Tom Cannon would be someone I would be interested in. I agree with what Terry says. I saw Kiefer Moore being mentioned. His name's been mentioned. Potential return to Cardiff. He's a big, tall target man striker. He would get you 10 or 15 goals in the Championship next season. I don't know if he's going to be available, but I've just seen his name mentioned linked with a move back to Cardiff, where he's played before. I think we would be a better team for him than them, and offer a bit more potential in terms of the strength of the squad and size of the club and everything. So, I mean, there are options out there, but one thing is for certain, we absolutely need somebody, whether it's a loanee, whether it's going out and spending the money. I don't think we'll spend anywhere near the whole amount that we get for Ross Stewart. I think anybody expecting us just to go out and spend 8 and 10 million, I would like to see it happen. I agree with what Terry said, but I don't think it will happen. I think there's very little chance of us spending all of that money. And I think we just need a little bit of experience would help as well. Do you know what I mean? I'm all for signing youngsters, and we've discussed this model, a lot on this channel. We don't want to go back to the back end of the David Moyes era where we're signing, 35, 36-year-olds for one last payday. Absolutely not. But we don't want to sign all 16, 17, 18-year-olds either. Do you know what I mean? Because you have to get the balance right in the squad. It's okay preparing for the future, but you need somebody for now. You need somebody who's going to hit the ground running. You know what I mean? And regardless of who that is, taking a punt on a 17, 18-year-old and thinking, well, he might be good in 3 years' time, that's no good. We need somebody who's going to be ready to go now. And the problem is there's not many of them out there, and we haven't got much time. So we've put ourselves in a bit of a hole at the minute, haven't we?
We have, very, very much so. Like we've always put the timing of it couldn't have been any worse. But very quickly back in the chat before we go to Jacob. Ellie Anderson says he's great at signing players for free, but we need someone to be better than a free now. I think he's commenting on Speakman there. Mick Griffiths says we should go for Martin Waghorn from Derby. He scored goals in the Championship and now in League One. I think he's just actually re-signed for Derby, and I scored a hat-trick at the weekend, but for me, he's not really a Championship striker.
I agree.
Fionn's put a comment on there. So, Jacob, I'll come to you with this one. This lad, Sidney Van Hooijdonk, his name's been chucked about over the past few weeks. He's a big, tall striker. I think he's on loan. Atlanta, I think he is somewhere at the moment, or he was on loan. He's a big, strong player in the same kind of mould of Stewart. Do you know much about him?
Well, in terms of who we're looking at bringing, I think, how do you pronounce it? Is it Rushkin? Yeah, he's more, I would say, the Diallo replacement, to be honest. And I think, obviously we would love experienced strikers for this league, but getting them now, I think it's like a needle in a haystack. And, we're not the only club who are going in for, these so-called strikers who have got potential, because that's probably the wage demands in the game now are just too high for these type of players, particularly down in these leagues. And, I think we're going to result to that. We're going to look abroad for a tall target man type striker. Based on this lad who was it Hoy? How do you Hoy? His goal scoring record is not too bad for the age he's at personally, but it's whether there's any truth in that, I'm not so sure, in terms of players like false nines who can play out wide but also do a job in like a front three like Diallo did last season. Jerison Sakyi from Crystal Palace has been linked as well. Right winger, can play as a forward, but Palace don't want to sell until they get Eze timed up. Was it their forward Eze on a new contract? So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with that one. Tom Cannon, Percy, I think will lose. I think I've heard rumours that apparently he's in Middlesbrough getting the deal done already. So I think we may have just missed out on that. But if I'm wrong, I do apologise. But that's all I know from my front so far in terms of strikers coming in.
And on that, Terry, on Tom Cannon, is it the case of yet again the club's waited far too long? Tom Cannon's been linked with us for weeks and weeks. Now it's come to the crunch. He's gone elsewhere. Again, the club missing out.
Okay, there was probably no guarantee they were going to get 8 million to 10 million for Ross Stewart, so they weren't going to go out and spend like massive amounts of money on a player if they haven't got the money to spend. And I think they're trying to get there. And I don't know if anybody knows the books and what kind of money we lost last season, but I heard rumours that we lost 8 million last season. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's even possible with the gates that we have. So I don't know whether they're going to try, and they weren't going to go out and splash loads of money, way of his own money anyway, if they didn't have the revenue coming in. So it's a matter of like one of those catch-22s, isn't it? You've got to wait until Stewart's sold before you can go and spend the money. So now they're getting 8 to 10 million. There's no reason why they can't put a bid in for someone now, but you don't want to get into the Will Greek situation when you're having to bid 2 or 3 times for a player, because now the clubs know now that we're desperate for a player, they might hold out for a bigger price. So we've got to be careful what we do, and we've got to get somebody in. I mean, even if this Russian comes in, if he's like a mad replacement, it's better than nothing, isn't it? Let's face it, because I mean, a mad could easily come back on loan again. You never know.
Well, it could be once he gets fit. I'm guessing in January they will be looking for a loan out again. So that, hopefully he would come back here. But quickly back in the chat, Ian says we also have to remember that this lot won't spend any money on anyone over the age of 25. Denham 13 says we should get Lukaku in before Roma. I'm still sure that might not happen. Chris Barlow says, is Wee Philly going to be on the EOL tomorrow? It would be great to see, but I don't think so.
Not this year, unfortunately, lads.
Not this year, no. It would be great to see again. But Ian said it's a waste of time. Any more kids coming in, because we all know Mowbray won't play them, especially when he knows they aren't ready yet. David Brown, Bologna. Must be that's for Van Hooydonk, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
David Thompson, I have no idea who we can sign, who we will be a good enough replacement for the 8 million we will get from the Stewart deal. Van Hooydonk is
Van Hooydonk a relation of Pierre Van Hooydonk, by the way? I wanted to ask Jacob.
His son, I think.
His son, is it right? I just wondered because it's quite an unusual name.
Unusual name, isn't it? I think he's about the same size as Pierre Van Hooydonk as well. I think he's about 6 foot odd. So
wasn't he the striker of Forest, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
Who we tried to sign in the Peter Reid era, I think.
Yeah.
He went on strike, didn't he?
Keeping up, yeah.
Yeah, I think he went on strike one year. He says there's 2 or 3 players, and he's refused to play.
I think he did. Les Palmer's Matt says the problem is all the strikers over the last 4 years that we've looked at. Can you name any that has been a hit in the championship? Well, it's not a bad point actually. AJ Emmett says Troy Parrott. I'm not even sure where Troy Parrott is these days. Is he still at Tottenham, or has he been out on loan, or is he?
He was at Preston last year, I think. Well, no, we were linked with him like for a lot of the window. I think he went to Preston on loan. I don't know whether they signed him permanently.
David Thompson has just been saying there what Terry was saying. The problem is that all clubs we know are desperate now and will bump the price up to ridiculous levels. That's unfortunately the situation that we're in. Now clubs know that we need a striker, that the price will probably go up 25%. So
Troy Parrott's on loan to Excelsior in the Dutch league from Tottenham, so not be able to sign.
That's done. He's made an appearance already.
There's no goal then. You Big Dosser says Mo Isa. Not sure.
Jamal Lowe was today, apparently.
Who?
Jamal Lowe.
Jamal Lowe.
Yeah, winger. We tried to get him in January, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did. I mean, as the clock ticks on and we're getting more and more desperate, then, like you say, we'll look at the Will Grigg kind of scenario, the likes of the Johnson, Clark, Harrises that were being linked with in the past. Would he then suddenly become an option, Jack?
Johnson, Clark, Harris? No, I would try and stay clear of him, to be fair. I know what you mean, though, because we're all wanting to sign a striker, but the downside is you might be liable to a panic buy. But at the minute, I think most people, if you offered them, would you rather just panic buy anybody or sign nobody at all? Most people would probably say just get somebody and take a chance, roll the dice. You might get it wrong, but you might get it right. You know what I mean? But they would rather do that than just not sign anybody, because the situation we're in at the minute isn't. We can't keep playing the way that we are without any sort of a striker at all. Do you know what I mean? It's just not sustainable. And our squad isn't good enough to be able to play that way without the players that we had last year. We could get dragged into a relegation battle. I don't think we will. I think we're probably a little bit too good for that, but it's easily done. Do you know what I mean? We have a few bad results. So I think most people would rather just sign anybody at this stage, take a chance, roll the dice and see if you can get somebody in, as opposed to, hang them back in case of a panic buy.
That's it. I totally agree. 166 people watching at the moment and 147 likes. So don't forget, if you don't mind, hit that like button. Terry, so moving on from Ross Stewart. Obviously, Ross Stewart's a big blow, but he hasn't been playing. Now, the latest one that came out earlier on is that Southampton are also looking at Patrick Roberts. Now, if he was to then go as well, and more links today about Burnley offering 15 million for Jack Clark, potentially, if them two were to go as well, where would that leave us?
Well, I personally don't think the pair of them will go. I'm going to I was going to put my hand out there and just basically say, I think they'll both stop. I've never heard anything from Patrick Roberts, to be honest. I've never heard that rumour, never seen anything to do with that. I've seen the 15 million bid for Jack Clark. I'd like to believe he was supposedly happy at the club anyway. So I think Linden Gooch is on his way. I've been told that Linden Gooch is going to Stoke now. Again, I don't know if that's 100% true or not, but I think out of the three of them, Gooch is for me the favourite to go. And I don't really think Patrick Roberts or Clark will go, to be honest.
I hope you're right. Jacob, do you think there's any chance of them two leaving before tomorrow night?
I think Clark's pretty much. I think if he was going to go, I think it would have been done by now. Because didn't Burnley, they've turned their attention to another wide player instead from abroad, I think.
I heard that to DI.
Yeah. Roberts, I haven't heard too much on that, to be honest. I think it, obviously reporters are looking to obviously type up stories regarding Roberts, because isn't he going into his final year as well?
Yeah, another one in his final year as well. That's the reason why it's a worry. If they're coming with a bid, then
yeah,
it's
with Roberts' caliber. It's weird how the timings come, because I thought he would have, considering a player of that much caliber going into the final year of his contract, I would have thought he would have been linked earlier on in the window. So I think that surely suggests that he's been persuaded to stay. Percy, I think he will stay, but who knows? It's worrying times at the minute, mate.
It is. Jack, I mean, I think there was a little bit of a whisper, wasn't there, in pre-season about they put the contract talks on hold with Roberts because he was apparently, looking disinterested in training, which I thought was a load of rubbish. But again, another one in the last year of his contract, potentially him and Clark. Do you think? What's your thoughts on them two possibly leaving before tomorrow night?
I think Patrick Roberts is a bit of a red herring, to be fair. I think it'll be unlikely that Southampton would want to do two deals with us so close to the deadline. It's not out of the ordinary. It's not hugely impossible, but I don't think it'll happen. I don't even think they're interested in it, to be fair. I think it's just been a caveat to the Ross Stewart transfer that there's probably a goer, and they might have just stuck that one in case the Ross Stewart deal collapsed or something, and there was still sort of some link there. So I don't think Patrick Roberts will be going to Southampton. I do think Burnley are interested in Jack Clark. I do think that there's firm interest from them. But I don't think. I think what Jacob says rings true. If they're signing somebody else, and you know what I mean, they've been in for him for a while, and they've just maybe tested the water late on in the window, and then they've just they've gone and got somebody else. So I think Burnley are interested in Jack Clark. That might be one that they come back to in January if we're struggling and he starts to think, I want to be in the Premier League. then that might be one that we have to sort of fend off again in January. I could see that happening in January. I could see them putting in more bids if they're struggling. If Burnley in the bottom 3 or in the bottom 5, then they might, think, well, we'll spend money to maintain our position, and that might become more of a goer in January. So hopefully neither Clark or Roberts go. Where would we go if we did sell all 3? We'd be in trouble. We'd be in real trouble, because that's our whole attacking unit. That's all the creativity. That's the goals. I don't think it would be a good idea from the club's perspective either. I mean, I know they've got this model of selling players when they're at their optimum price, but to sell all 3 in one window, I think that would be crazy. That would be absolutely crazy. I wouldn't put it past them, because nothing surprises me in football, but I think it would be a really bad business model to sell 3 big players like that. Yeah, you're going to have money, but with very little time to get anybody in. So I think it would be a really poor move from the owners.
That's it, and I think that would just show the ambition and the intentions of the owners. Jacob, do you want it in there?
I just wonder, like, with the Stewart deal, could we have done a deal with Southampton where we get a swap for someone else?
I'm not sure who else is available for that. No,
I think it would have been unlikely, considering I think they've just come down from the Prem. I know a lot of them would have taken wage cuts, but I think we wouldn't have been able to match their wage demands personally. I mean, I heard the only reason they're going in for Stewart is because they're looking to, I think apparently it's more or less done. Che Adams is out the door on their part. Everton, is it? Oh.
I think that's why he's going to Everton now.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, Che Adams for me, I think he'd suit the Championship a lot. I don't think he's Premier League quality, if I'm brutally honest, but that's just me. Yeah.
Terry, you want in there? You on mute? There's the first one.
It does look like Linden Gooch is going, doesn't it? Apparently, according to Keith Downey, he's got a medical undergoing at Stoke.
Is that Gooch? Oh, well.
It says on the chat there, Weatherall said, according to Keith Downey, Linden Gooch has agreed to join Stoke and undergoing a medical. My source told me about 2 o'clock this afternoon, 1 o'clock this afternoon, that he was going to Stoke. So looks like another one that's gone then.
He did. I'm pretty sure he did say he really enjoyed working under Alex Neil when he was here. So yeah, it's a transfer that makes sense, to be honest. I think Gooch out the door will be interesting to see what happens with Pritchard tomorrow as well.
That's another one. I very quickly back in the chat. Thean says Van Hooydonk is available for 3 to 4 million. If we can't pay that, then there's something sadly wrong. Thean also Clark Harris is available for 1 million. We've already said not really for us. David Joblin says Sunderland directors let the fans down every season. Kia Morris, it will leave us relegated if Clark and Roberts go. David Thompson, the latest Clark speculation has come from a very unreliable source, so that's doubt it's going to happen. John T, as an experienced industrial manager, it is frightening to see how our owners have gone about managing our team. They have had so much time but no vision or strategy. Now we are in a last-minute panic. Yeah, that's well said. Yes, Terry?
Does anybody think Luke O'Nine's like the kind of sort of person who would kind of replace what Gooch does at this moment in time? I mean, let's face it, Gooch has been injured a couple of times, but he's more a utility player, isn't he? And when the defence is full strength, like Sleet and Triantos and the likes of Danny Bart gets brought back in properly, I think Luke O'Nine becomes more of a utility player for me.
Yeah. And was Huggins coming back as well? Huggins, he came on at the weekend against Cov at right back. Was it right wing back or something? I thought he done pretty well, to be honest. And that's where Gooch played right back for the last run-in we had towards the end of last season. So he must rate Huggins well.
And also with Gooch now, he seems to be getting more and more niggly injuries, doesn't he, over the past few months. So not a bad bit of business. Jack, what's your thoughts on Gooch heading out the door?
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't think anybody would be too bothered about him. If you pick your starting 11, Linden Gooch isn't getting in your perfect Sunderland team, is it? You know what I mean? Your strongest Sunderland team isn't featuring Linden Gooch. I agree with what Terry says about Luke O'Nine. In my opinion, that's Luke O'Nine's value, and that's, I hate to say it, probably all he should be in our squad at the minute. If we want to build a team that's going to be, challenging for getting promotion out of this league, and that ultimately has to be the goal, whether it takes 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, the calibre of player will need to improve, and that's where Luke O'Nien his value will come in as a utility player. 20, 25 games a season across varying positions, using his experience. You know what you're going to get. He'll be an experienced player with the younger lads as well, setting the standards. And Luke O'Nien still has value, but with Gooch, yeah, I think it's probably time for a change for him as well. You know what I mean? He's been here a while. He's been here 7-8 years now in the first team. And I think it's just right for him to move on. He's the last one from the Premier League squad from the Premier League era. And he's been a brilliant servant for us, hasn't he? Let's be honest. He came through the academy. He's filled in various different roles. He's been all the way down and then back up again. And I think it's probably just right. He's one of those that he could do with having a change. You know what I mean? He needs a bit of a fresh start. Surprised at Stoke getting him though. I didn't think Alex Neil would be too interested in signing him. But there we go. He knows him and he's gone in for him, and it looks like it's won. So I wish him well, but I don't think there'll be too many of our fans that bothered, to be fair.
No, I think you're right. And replacement-wise, like you say, we're probably got Luke O'Nien probably there as a ready-made replacement, like you say, when everybody's fit. Sorry, I can't read all the comments in the chat. There's absolutely loads of people commenting tonight. Robert SAFC says, be prepared to lose Clark and Roberts. That's all he'll say. Colin Midger looks like we're going to be the laughing stock again. It's embarrassing. End of an era for Gooch, last man from the last Premier League squad, like what Jack's just been saying there. Thean saying Trent has got sent off for under 23s of the night. So very quickly, obviously we spoke quite a bit about transfers. Just before we move on to review the Coventry game, how many more players do you think that we need, and how many more players do you think we'll get, Terry?
How many more players I think we'll get? I think we'll get, I'm going to say 2 to 3 max. 3 max, probably 2. Like I say, we'll definitely get 2 or 3, but maybe it's just be 2. But I think we'll definitely, like I say, we've lost Stewart, we've lost Gooch. I'm hoping that's the last of the players going out. I hope we keep Pritchard. I mean, Pritchard for me is a better player than Dak. He's probably going to be more reliable than Dak. Job is the player that's going to feature the most, but like all players, they do have the lulls and they can't last the 90 minutes. So for me, Pritchard, I think, we've got to keep all the Pritchard. We've got to keep all the Danny Bart. I think Danny Bart, for against big physical sides like we did like Luton last season, we're being spot on, you know. And so for me, he replaces Luke O'Nien 100% against the big physical sides. Against teams where we have the ball, we've got to work the ball up the back, then fair enough, we might play Luke O'Nien. But eventually, I think Luke O'Nien will be overtaken by, I think Sleep was brought in to be like the main sort of defensive player, like alongside like Daddy Ballard and Sleep sort of thing. But until he gets fit and up to scratch, it's going to be like Luke O'Nien, Danny Bath. And I think I like to keep him as well. So I want nobody else leaving the club. I've also heard that we are refusing clubs and we're not letting players go out on loan. Apparently, we've had clubs coming in for Bar, coming in for who's the two?
Dewey.
Who? Dewey, Bar, and there was another one.
Ekwa was linked with Stuttgart and all yesterday, wasn't he? But I think that might have been a permanent transfer.
Yeah, so there was 3 players. They wanted to go on loan, but the hierarchy said no. They want to keep all the players, many players as possible at the club, because we're not going to get many players in.
Well, that's the worry. That is a worry. Jacob, you know, based on looking at the injury issues that we've had at both fullbacks, you know, how many players do you think we need to still get, and how many do you think we'll get? Now, shall we be looking at fullbacks as well?
My head says 2, my heart says 3, but I think 2 will leave to because bear in mind, I think Stewart and Gooch are done now. I think tomorrow. See, I've whether what Terry said is true, that they want to keep players at the club, because there was talk also today, was it Embleton was linked to the move away. I think that would have only been a loan deal, but apparently Tony Mowbray likes him and wants to keep him till, I think he's another one that's out of contract in a year as well. So yeah, I think he'll be here till January at least. I think we'll look to potentially move him on then, but I don't know. I still think Dewey could benefit with a year out on loan somewhere. Personally, I mean, the one player would have picked, you know, in that squad potentially to move on, considering he's just been unlucky of injuries, and we have got a fully established right back ahead of him is Niall Huggins, but it looks like he's going to play some part of the season, considering he came on at the weekend. So fair play.
to be fair, Wilkins, he always looks decent when he has played. So let's hope we can keep
play
him
on
fit.
both sides as well.
Jacob, so I wrote down 7 players here that I think we need. I think we could possibly do with another bottom goalkeeper, a left back, a right back, a defensive midfielder, 2 strikers, and potentially another winger. I know we're not going to get that, but realistically, how many do you think we need, and how many do you think we'll get?
I think I'm going to stick. I think we'll get 3 in. 3 in, 2 will go.
Jack, what's your thoughts? How many do you think we need, and how many do you think we'll get?
Well, how many do we need? If you said you can have whoever you want and how many you want, I would probably say 5. I think we need 5 players. I think we need 2 strikers. I think we need a right back. I think we need a right winger. And I think we need a holding centre midfielder. I think there's 5. How many do I think we'll get? I think it's more likely to be... I'll go 3. I'll be positive. I think we'll get Rushin in and 2 others. I think Rushin and 2 others. Wouldn't surprise us if there's 3 goes, though. I think Ross Stewart and Gooch wouldn't be surprised if you see one shock departure, one surprise, somebody that you weren't expecting to go and something happens, whether it's on loan or not. I would like to see Bennett probably go on loan. So I think there's a player in there, but I think he's not yet. Do you know what I mean? And he might do with 3 or 4 months regular football in maybe League One or something like that. I don't know. So yeah, I think we need 5, but I don't think we're going to get 5. I think we'll get Rushin and 2 others, and possibly 3 go. Stewart, Gooch, and maybe 1 surprise that we're not expecting.
Well, that's it. I think that from what the reports were today, they said that Clark will be going nowhere unless it's a massive multi-million-pound bid. Now, if Burnley come in with something like 25 million, who knows what will happen? But
maybe in January. Not now, I don't think.
Possibly, I hope you're right. We can't afford to lose any more at this moment in time. Yes, Terry?
Yeah, if we don't lose any more players, I think, right back and 2 strikers for me. Like, if not 3 strikers, but we're not going to get 3.
I'd still like to see us getting another, holding midfield player.
What? With everything that's been going on, I hope... Listen, I'll be the proudest Sunderland fan ever if Hamir comes off the bench on Saturday and proves people wrong, has the game of his life for what's happened or what the worst case scenario. Literally, I mean, I don't agree with... I think, personally, I don't think he's been managed well, but I think having him in the lineup the first game, was he fully ready? Well, considering he was our highest goal scorer in pre-season, the answer would be yes, but dropping him after 1 game, I think that dented his confidence a little bit, but I think he could do. He's the sort of player where you just think 1 goal will just set him away. Personally, it could just happen, but who knows?
I think you're right. I don't know whether you're saying after the game there was a bit of video footage after the game against Coventry. He looked absolutely disconsolate. The Coventry players tried to shake his hand, and his head was down, and he just looked like he was going to start crying. He was that downhearted. Terry.
Look, he's only a young lad, isn't he? Let's face it. He's never really played much first-team football, and he's going to, like Tony Mowbray said a few times, it's going to take a while to get him to make him into the player that Sunderland want. And for me, I watched them warming up in the last home match, and every single shot he did at the keeper, you had Barr who was hitting them high, and keeper was saving them. You had Pritchard again over the top. Every one he put low down in the corner, and he scored almost, I'd say, 15 out of 16 shots with the back of the net. He looks really good, but I just think on the pitch, he looks a little bit lost every now and again. I just think he needs... I think at this season, it's going to do him the world of good. I think he'll be a much better player next season. I think we need a striker in now that's ready to hit the ground running. I think we've got to be patient with Samisod. We've got to be patient with him and wait till he sort of gets used to the English football, used to the game, and next season could be the season for him. Spot on.
Jack, you want in there?
To me, he looks like he's not up to the intensity of the Championship. I think people are saying it can come across as lazy, and I can understand why people think he's not running, he's not lazy. I think to me, he's not used to playing in such a fast game again with a passionate crowd behind him. And I think I've watched him before, and he doesn't really look like he's up to the intensity of it yet. I mean, people can write him off and say, he's never going to be ready. He might be, but it just looks like he's not ready yet. But the problem is, we've thrust him into that role when we're probably told him, you'll get maybe 5 or 10 games and ease you in. And then suddenly it's like, no, you're going to be the number 1 striker from pre-season. And he probably wasn't expecting it himself. So I just think maybe the way that he plays at the minute isn't going to endear himself into our fans, because our fans love players tearing up and down, don't they? They love grafters and everything, and his style might not be up to that yet. You know what I mean? He might not be ready for that yet, and I think that's why the fans will get on his back a little bit. But really, I do have a bit of sympathy for him, because I think we're asking a lot of him already early in his career. He come to England, new environment, new team, new country, and we're asking him to do things that he probably wasn't expecting to do, and that's why it doesn't look like he's hitting the ground running straight away. That's the way I think about it.
Right, it's another one where he's been chucked at the deep end. Terry?
Yeah, I think Tony Mowbray said something a few weeks ago, which was like, you could say it, something to do with, it was pre-season training or something, at the intensity we put our players through, where they don't even have a pre-season kind of training over there. They're just like getting into the games to get going. So you can see he's lacking in knowledge of the general game, to be honest, in English style of football. And that's going to take a while if he's been brought up all these years doing a certain way of doing something, it's going to take a while for him to adapt. I mean, it may never happen. He may never adapt. That's on the worst case scenario. But touch wood, Tony Mowbray, with being such a great coach, will get him used to the English game, get him bedded in eventually. But I think the next season for me is more his sort of schedule.
Right, totally agree. Some more breaking news on the chat there. There's some reports there. Leicester City are in advanced talks with Tom Cannon. So it looks like there's another one we missed out on. Leicester looking at him. Also, what else have we got there? The problem with Samisod. I missed it now. The promise of Midway is a big lad, but he looks weak as hell. Again, not used to first team football. Rob Esther, to be fair, we're not putting the ball into the box for him here. Jacob?
This is the thing. Listen, I think it's still too early to go. Let's not forget also with Diallo, when the position he came, he had to earn his place in the side. It wasn't all plain sailing straight away. And he was signed, I think, to be a winger, and then he adapted as the season went along and played as a false nine. I think, isn't Diallo, when we signed him, wasn't he 20, 21? Yeah. So not far off from here. But how old's Samir? Like 18, 19?
18, isn't he? Well, yeah,
it's a bit, I can understand, I think it's a little bit different, but I still see a player in that Rotherham game when he came off the bench, how he dropped deeper to receive the ball with a decent touch, and he almost put it in the corner. That's something that we can adjust to play if he's on the pitch. I mean, that's normally the way we play anyway, but a strike, that's what I like to see strikers do, not just being in the box all the time, but also coming outside the box to receive the ball and people running off them.
If we had some experience alongside him, then it will make all the difference. But he's chucked up there up by himself and I. But very quickly, anyway, with 220 people watching, which is great. Thank you very much. We've got 71 likes. Please hit that like button. We've got possibly about 15, 20 minutes left. We'll have a look. We'll look at the Coventry game. So, Jack, Jacob, you were both down there. Jack, what was your thoughts on the Coventry game and the Coventry performance? We went down there expecting a defeat, and to be fair, we were lucky not to win the game, I think.
Yeah, I expected a defeat. I predicted a defeat last week, and I was happy to be wrong. I thought they would have too much for us. First half, they were the team on top. I felt they were moving the ball quicker. They had more possession. They looked more threatening. But they didn't really create that many out-and-out chances in the first half, from what I can remember. I think they had that one chance that Patterson saved where they did break us down and carve us open. The lad hit it straight to Patterson. It was a decent save. But other than that, there was nothing, and I felt like we were going to get better in the second half, and we did. They were the better team first half, but I felt we were better second half. We were, we got up to the speed of the game a bit more, and really, I think we didn't show them as much respect in the first half. We suddenly said, no, we can play as well as you. There's not that much between us. We got on the ball a little bit more, and really, last 15 or 20 minutes, it looked like if anyone was going to nick it, it was going to be us. Shame we didn't. Probably wouldn't have deserved it. I think a draw was probably a fair result. I thought a point was decent. But same old. It was just a bit of lack of cutting edge. Same as against the Preston game. We didn't dominate as much as we did against Preston, against Coventry. I felt like that. We were really unlucky not to get something against Preston. It was just a bit of lack of cutting edge. The final pass, the final shot. We had a couple of opportunities whereby the ball could have gone into the middle and it didn't, and that probably cost us. We could have got a cleaner shot at goal. And I think sometimes we tend to overplay a little bit as well. I know that's the style that we've got. We haven't got a striker, but I think sometimes we are guilty of overplaying a little bit and not getting shots away quicker. I don't know whether that you want to comment on that, but I think sometimes there is a little bit of too many touches going on the final third and not enough kind of shooting and crossing and end product.
That's been a criticism for the last year. But again, when you play without a striker, that's why we tend to overplay, didn't we? Jacob, what was your thoughts on the Coventry performance?
Listen, I thought, like Jack said, we were going down there expecting not to get a result, but considering this is a side that finished top 6 last season, they've replaced players who've left with decent players as well. I thought it was a solid point. To me, if you offered me a point before the game, I would have snapped your hands off and taken it. But I do agree with the comment. Second half, we didn't do enough, to take risks in the game. There was periods where Clark cut in on his right foot, and could he have taken shots earlier? Yeah, potentially. But then again, I think we were relying on that side a little bit too much. We didn't have anything on the other side where Abdul-Jabbar was playing, which, let's be honest, he's not a winger at all. There's enough proof of that. He's more effective playing as an attacking midfielder or a solid midfield player. He can't play out wide. So whether that's a position we'll address going into the final day of the window, who knows? But to get back to the game itself, for a side who were tipped to do well at the start of the season, I thought we made them look pretty ordinary, to be honest. It was a good defensive display. I think they only got in behind us twice. 2 good saves from Patterson. I mean, one of the strikes, I think, from who was their signing it? Is it Lahaj?
Haji Wright.
Yeah, Haji Wright. I think decent save from Patterson. It was straight at him, both, to be fair. And Ellis Sims, Luke O'Nine for the whole of that game had Sims in his back pocket. Sims didn't do anything, to be honest. It didn't look a threat at all. So yeah, solid point, to be honest. But let's just hope we do have more goal threats in the team going into a game at the weekend against the side who've just come down from the Prem and are going to offer more quality.
Yeah, 100%. Jack, come in.
Yeah, I was just going to build on what Jacob said about the clean sheet. I was very impressed with us defensively, and the fact that we didn't look like we were wide open like we did against Preston and Ipswich at times. Because we do play an open style of football, and I was worried that was going to be a recurring theme. Do you know what I mean? Whereby we give a lot of chances away, and teams are too easy to play against us, and teams find it too easy to play and score against us. So that was out the window. It was a real backs to the wall at times, but really, really well marshalled team, and I thought it was a really pleasing aspect of our performance. And would have liked a little bit more cutting edge going forward, but when I said that, you can spin that round and say, but I was impressed with us defensively. Do you know what I mean? We give very little chances away, and against a pretty strong Coventry City attacking unit, they didn't have hardly any chances. Couple of half shots, so. We conceded a lot in pre-season, didn't we? And we conceded, 2 against Ipswich and 2 against Preston. So it was nice to keep a clean sheet. Shame we didn't nick a 1-0 win, but a solid 0-0 draw, I think, was a decent result. A very good point. Yeah,
I think it was a great point. Terry, coming to you. So, line up when you're saying Bar in the team, is that more of an indication that Pritchard's not in favour and they want him out? And what was your thoughts on the game?
Well, I was told on the Friday Bar was starting and Pritchard wasn't going to start because, apparently they want Bar to start as much as possible this season because they want to try and build up his credentials to sell him next season, whatever. But it's always nice to have a clean sheet. I love a nice clean sheet. And I went into the game thinking, well, Coventry playing well. We might get stuffed here, but I was hoping that we'll get some sort of result out of the game. And to be fair, we were never troubled, to be honest. I felt quite comfortable throughout the whole game. I thought Ballard was absolute brilliant. Ballard in defence. I thought Luke O'Nine improved his game. I thought Dan Neil had a good game. Eklund had a good game. The only kind of lacking was the threat down the right-hand side. As much as that, you want likes of Bart to succeed and do well. He's only a young lad. You don't have to criticise him too much. He got the ball. He was running down the wing as best he could. There was one chance when Job was clean through the middle and he couldn't put the ball across. All he had to do was just get it out of the defender. It wasn't really, I'm sure even I could have done that. I don't like it. But anyway, that's all he had to do when he hit the man, didn't he? And I thought, that's just Bar all over at the moment, isn't it? So I'm hoping it doesn't start on Saturday, but you never know with this hierarchy.
You never know. Yes, Jay, everyone in?
Yeah, not great news, unfortunately, this evening. Just goes from bad to worse. Another tweet from Our good old mag friend reporter Keith Downey. It's nothing to do. Southampton have made a bid totaling 5 million for Sunderland winger Patrick Roberts. Understand the offer is 3 million plus £2 million guaranteed add-ons. Roberts' contract, like Ross Stewart's, is up next summer. Proposal hasn't been accepted at this stage and might not.
5 million.
Sorry, I'm going to go first. He's worth miles more than 3
Yeah,
million.
exactly.
Come on.
Rubbish.
Tell him to piss off. Just tell him to piss off, and then tell him to piss off again tomorrow when they put another bid in tomorrow.
If Tony Mowbray says he's the best winger in the league or the best footballer in the league, £3 million an absolute insult.
Got to be 50 million otherwise.
Telephone box.
They've got plenty of money. Hold them over a barrel if they want them. They sold
Exactly.
James Ward-Prowse the other week, didn't they? 30 million.
They've made £120 million in transfers. £120 million they've made in the summer.
I got it wrong. I didn't think they were interested. I thought it was a red herring, so I got that one wrong then.
To me, like the £150 million they've made, they've only spent 10. They've got absolutely loads of money. So tell them to get 50 million in for Roberts, otherwise sling your hook.
You've had one, you can't have another. No, do one.
Tomorrow just going to be more and more depressing. You can just see it coming anyway on to Southampton at the weekend for the last 10 minutes. So, they're a team in format. They've played 4-1-3, drew 1. They're scoring goals for fun. They've got Adam Armstrong scored 4 goals in 3 games. So, again, it's going to be a tough game. Terry, what's your thoughts on team selection for Saturday?
Look, I think it's like personally, I would change it to a back 3. I'd have Ballard, Bart, and I'd have Luke O'Nien there with Serkin and Hume as kind of. I know that people say they're not wing backs, but at the end of the day, I mean, they're on the same side. I think they'll probably do a decent job. But I think he'll stick with the same team. I'm hoping he changes Bart for Pritchard. Obviously, Gooch is gone now, so he won't be playing. So the only logical one that will come in for me is going to be Pritchard. And you kind of play a Bar. I don't want to see Bar playing at home and having a bad game and then the crowd turning against him. So I'd rather just bring Bar as a sub. I think he's even better away from home than home anyway. So for me, the only change, Pritchard in, but personally, I'd go to a back 3.
Good stuff. I think I was expecting us going that way against Coventry. Didn't he resist the temptation? But we'll see. Jack, what would you do on Saturday? Would you keep it as a back 4 and maybe bring Pritchard in, or would you go to a back 5 or back 3?
Yeah, I would probably keep it as a back 4, to be fair. But I would like to get Pritchard in the team somewhere. The issue is, do you drop Bellingham? Do you play Pritchard off the striker, or do you play Pritchard off Dak? Or do you play Pritchard off Bellingham? I don't know. I'm not sure, but I just think that however we sort the team out, I've liked Patrick Roberts, Alex Pritchard when he's come on. I felt like we've looked a lot more threatening when he's come on. We've looked like we've got a little bit more final cutting edge in the final third. So I've really liked him when he's come on. I felt he's looked sharp. He's been probably one of the sharpest players I've seen us have on the pitch in the last few weeks. So however it happens, I would try and get Alex Pritchard in somewhere. It might be in Patrick Roberts' position if Patrick Roberts goes, or if he's sort of sits this one out in case it affects the deal on Saturday. I don't know if there is one. He might play him on the right. I don't know, but I would like to see Pritchard play because he's got that little final cutting edge, I think.
Definitely 100%. Very quickly back in the chat list, everybody's gone berserk in the chat. I think it's Bateman and them, they're going to be under massive pressure tomorrow if they don't deliver. There's a lot of unhappy people in the chat.
Hit the subscribe button as well, by the way. A couple of new ones on tonight, definitely.
Right, apparently the fee for Gooch is £1 million for Gooch. Ryan McCummett, would you play a rig on Saturday? David Thompson, I'll leave until tomorrow night, but I'm genuinely worried for where we will be by the end of December if we keep allowing all our experienced players to leave. Played that off the striker. What striker? Jacob, so when Pritchard came on at the weekend, you were down there, and I think he was actually pointing and telling Emir where he should be running to and helping him that way. So do you think Pritchard should be a starter come Saturday?
If he's still here?
If he's still here.
That's the thing. Knowing that it's the likes of him, Gooch, have been on the bench the first few games of the season, you know where this is going to go. To be honest, I think a bid will come in for Pritch tomorrow and we'll be happy to accept. Our only be able to accept this if we've lined up replacements already to be signed for tomorrow. That's the thing. But Pritchard, he offers experience, he offers good attacking play in the final third, creativity. But do we know, with the extent of the wages he's on, do the club feel that he's on too much money for what he should be on for a 30-year-old player? Who knows? That's the thing. That's the only reason I can think of why he's been benched the first few games of the season, to be honest. But let's just see what happens in 24 hours' time.
Yeah. Terry?
There's going to be no harm whatsoever keeping Pritchard next season. I mean, at the end of the day, if he gans as a free, he came as a free, if he goes as a free, you're not losing any money. You just you're gaining that experience for all these youngsters, aren't you? I mean, if he was pointing, was he not telling Jack Clark to move around on Saturday as well, Pritchard?
Yeah. I was pointing at everybody
or whatever it was. But I mean, surely you can have behind closed doors games with Samisod and get him up to the speed and try and teach him things there with all the players. But I don't know. I'm just hoping that Pritchard doesn't leave.
Unless he wants to go, unless Pritchard maybe wants to go, unless he saw Stewart and potentially Roberts going and thinks, I want to be away as well, I want to be back down south. We don't know. It's worrying times at the minute because you're not sure who the starting 11 is going to be on Saturday, and if we're going to get anybody in, it's a bit concerning.
I'm worried now that if Roberts does go as well and Pritchard, and we're not going to get anybody in, it will be more young kids. Davy Johnson put a comment earlier on saying, I want to debate how good or bad the players are or not, if we have enough players or not. We are embarrassing. It's that simple. League One incoming shambles. So
I just hope we're proved right by this time tomorrow, to be honest. It's almost like I'm tempted to just mute all the chats, all the Sunderland chats.
We've got one chat tomorrow.
And just reopen everything come the deadline tomorrow evening. To be honest, I don't want to look at it during the middle of the day. It'll just drive me insane.
It's really, really tough on us. But 209 people watching. We've had good numbers tonight. 88 likes. So let's see if we can get to 100 in the last 3 or 4 minutes of the show. Score predictions, and Terry, what's your score predictions for Saturday?
Well, I am going for a 2-1 win for Sunderland on Saturday. Be positive about it. Let's turn them over. They've taken Ross Stewart. There's obviously won't even be on the bench on Saturday. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Sunderland. I'm going to feel positive. So don't forget, if you're enjoying the live stream right now, hit the thumbs up. It costs absolutely diddly squat. So hit the thumbs up. Thank you.
Well said. Well said. Jack, what's your thoughts and what's your score predictions for the weekend?
Yeah, I'm not positive, I'm afraid. I wasn't positive last week and we got a positive result and I was wrong. So hopefully I'm wrong this time. I just think Southampton are my personal pick to win the league. I think they'll be right up there and getting promotion in May, probably edging out Leicester to the title. They're in good form. They're on a bit of a high. They're going to be on the high if they've signed Stewart. We're not. And I think they'll probably have a little bit too much for us. I think we will score, but I think, unfortunately, Southampton have got some quality players in the final third. And I see an entertaining game, an attacking, open game, but I think Southampton will be more dangerous than we are. They'll cause us more problems than we are. I think it'll be 2-1 to Southampton, I'm afraid.
2-1. Good stuff. And Jacob, what's your score predictions for the weekend?
Considering the quality Southampton have got to offer, and listen, it all depends on who we bring in tomorrow, but I'd take a point again, to be honest, based on Southampton's quality. 1-1.
1-1. Good stuff. I've gone for a 2-2. I think it'll be like what Jack was saying, an open game, but I think we might just sneak a 2-2, depending on what players we've got left, that is. Very quickly, back in the chat, Darren Aldo says, our team is decimated. Do they know what they are doing? David Harris, last season, Pritchard was ineffective when he started, but made an impact when he came off the bench. Justin Eppley says, best news of the day is the Mags got Drew in the group of death for the Champions League. I don't know who they drew, but they are.
PSG, Borussia Dortmund, and AC Milan, I believe.
Anyone wants to talk about them, man?
Yeah, let's get Max comments in the chat.
Weather says we really need Russian announced tonight to give us any hope of things. Well, I don't even know if he's in the country yet, is he? I don't even know. Mick Rivers, before you finish, a big shout out to Wee, Philly and Karen. I'm glad your 2 putty cats are now home, safe and sound. Yes, I don't know whether they know, but Wee Philly's cats has gone missing, but they're both back home, which is great news. Ryan McCormack says 2-0 Sunderland. Neil Wet says 4-1 to Sunderland. Ballard, Pritchard, Bellingham, and Demir. Well, I hope he's right. Anyway, that's all we've got time for. Tonight's flew by. Thanks to everybody who's commented in the chat tonight. It's been great seeing all the comments. Currently 217 watching. We're 102 likes, so we'll smash that 100 likes very quickly before we go. Terry, do you want to say your final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody being on the chat tonight. Thanks for all the thumbs up. We smashed 100. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel, and hopefully we can bring more players in tomorrow than we let go. See you later.
Well said. Jacob, final thoughts?
Keep the faith for tomorrow and Saturday. That's all I'll say.
That's all we can do, I think. That's all we can do. And last but not least, Jack, what's your thoughts, final thoughts in there to everybody?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for everyone for watching. I always say that wouldn't have a show if nobody was interested in watching, would we? So thanks for everyone for tuning in. And try and keep smiling. I know it's been a bit of a disappointing day if Stewart's gone and potentially Patrick Roberts goes as well. But yeah, think on. We're in the Championship. We're in League One for a few years, and we are improving slowly. Not as much as we would want, but yeah. And we'll see you all later, lads and lasses.
Well said. Like I say, we'll try and keep positive, and hopefully, speaking and quoting, do the business tomorrow and brighten everybody's day. But I'm sure we'll have some kind of videos getting popped up during the day tomorrow of breaking news and what have you. But like I say, thanks for watching. Great show. Thanks, lads, and we'll see you all later.